Okay, welcome back to the Alien Invasion series of video lectures. We're going to get into creating bullets. Now, there's a lot going to be happening here, so I'm probably going to break this down into a couple separate videos. In this first video, we're going to start by creating the bullets and learning how to fire them. So, what we want to start with is we'll go into settings, and inside of the Init, we're going to create some new settings here, and we'll call this the bullet settings. And so first thing here we're going to have is self.bullet speed. And we're going to set that equal to 1.0. And then we'll do self.bullet width. And we'll set that equal to 3. And we'll also have a self.bullet height. And we'll set that equal to 15. And last thing we need here is a color. So we'll call self.bullet color. And this color we're going to use is 60, 60, 60. So pretty dark gray. And there we go. We have the settings for our bullets set up, and we're ready to start making some bullets. Of course, this is going to be its own class of objects. So we'll save this, and then we'll pop over here to our File Explorer, and we're going to create a new file. And this is going to be called the bullet.py. And bullet.py, again, we want to have access to our Pygame, but specifically, we want to import something specific. So from Pygame.sprite, we're going to import sprite. And for those of you who may not be familiar with what sprites are, a sprite is a way of creating a group. This is more of like a gaming term than necessarily a Python term. So we'll be able to create multiple bullets, and then we'll be able to keep them into kind of a single entity called a sprite, and we'll be able to control them a little bit better as a group by doing this. So let's go ahead and get started with our class bullet. And bullet is going to extend the sprite. So it's going to be a child. The bullet is a child class of sprite. So we put sprite into a set of parentheses with bullet to indicate that it is extending the sprite class, and it's going to be a child of it. So this is our docstring here indicates a class to manage bullets fired from the ship. Okay, and then of course the first thing we have to do is define our init. All right. So when we define our init, we're going to provide it with an AI game. Again, we want to be able to connect our bullets, coordinates, and rectangles with the settings and with the screen that we've created. So Let's go ahead and give ourselves a doc string here. This is going to create a bullet object at the ship's current position. And so we're going to need to tie this in because we want the bullets to appear to come from the ship. So it's going to need to track the ship to be able to do that. But first we're going to call the super init, so super parentheses dot init, and that calls the init method of its parent class, the sprite. And that helps us to make sure that we're inheriting from the sprite everything we need to inherit. And then we're going to create a few more attributes, self.screen, which we're going to set equal to the AI game.screen. Again, we want the screens, we want the settings, and we want the colors to all be kind of connected. So we'll create a self.settings, and that's going to equal the AI game.settings. And then we'll set up a self.color, which is going to equal the self.settings.bullet color. There we go. Now we have set up the main aspects of our bullet constructor, but we need to do a little bit more here. We need to create the bullets rectangle. Because really all a bullet is for us is a rectangle. So we're gonna start it off at 0, 0, and then set the correct position. So this will help keep the coding not too complicated. So we'll build a self.rectangle, and that's going to be equal to a pi game rect, and this is an object within Pygame where we're going to build a rectangle, and it's going to have the coordinates 0, 0, and then a self.settings .bullet _ width, and then we also need to do self.settings and I apologize for this being a little long here. Let's get rid of this. Bullet _ height. Okay, there we go. So our rectangle for the bullet is going to be set equal to a pygame.rectangle. And the rectangle is a class within Pygame that creates rectangles. We have the upper left-hand corner going to be at 0, 0, and its width will be set to the bullet's width, and its height will be set to the bullet's height. So now that we have that created, we need to move it to the right place to locate the correct positioning. So as we did with the ship in the screen, we are going to kind of line up the bullet's mid-top is going to set equal to the AI game.ship. So the ship that's been created for the AI game, it also has a rectangle, and it also has a mid-top. So our rectangle's mid-top is going to be set up to the ship's mid-top. So wherever my ship goes, it's going to have that position, the middle top position, will be then assigned to my rectangle's mid-top position. And so in this way, we'll be able to create the rectangle and then be able to position it in the correct location, because that location is going to move all over the place. One last little setting here. This is going to store the bullet's position as a decimal value. And we're going to do that with self, because it's moving up, so self.y is really the only one we care about. Our bullets aren't going to go sideways, so it's going to be a float, and we'll call self.rectangle.y. And there we go. We have created our bullets class. Now, or at least its init method. Now we have to define an update method. So we're going to define update to be self. And then what this is going to do is move the bullet up the screen. All right, so once we fire the bullet, it needs to go up the screen. And so this is going to update the decimal position of the bullet. And we're going to do that with self.y minus equals, because remember, moving up in the y direction would be subtracting the y value. Self.settings, bullet speed, and let's go ahead and give ourselves a little extra space there. So our self y is going to minus equal the bullet speed. And then we're going to come down here and we're going to update the rectangle position. And we'll do that self.rectangle.y will equal to self.y. Okay, so again, because we're dealing with decimal for speed in a lot of different cases. If we want our bullets to go faster or we want our ship to move faster, then we're going to be working with decimal values. However, rectangles only allow integer values. So if we want to modify with decimals, we have to work with the self.y, and once that decimal calculation has been carried out, we'll set it equal to the rectangle's y, and the rectangle y is only going to grab the integer value. So if we get 1.7, it's only going to take the 1, and that's going to be smooth enough for us that we're not really going to be able to tell much of a difference in that. So once we have the update done, we still need to create one more method here, and that is the defining the draw bullet. Because creating a bullet and firing a bullet and moving a bullet, it's all fine, but if you don't draw the bullet, then the user, the game player, isn't going to be able to see anything. So this method is just going to simply draw it and we're going to use pygame.draw.rectangle, and we'll give it the self.screen, so that's where it's going to draw it, and we'll use self.color, and we'll use self.rectangle to get the coordinates of it. Okay, so there we go. We can now draw our bullets and get it to the screen. However, what we haven't done quite yet is give us the ability to fire any bullets. And as I mentioned before, we do want to be able to store these bullets as a sprite type group. So I'm going to control save, and then I'm going to pop over here to Alien Invasion. So now that I'm on the alieninvasion.py, we are going to scroll up here to our init method. So the alien invasion, when we create the alien invasion game, we create our settings, we set all those settings, we create a ship using the ship constructor. We're also going to need to create a bullet. So we will do self.bullets, and that's going to equal a pygame.sprite.group. And that gets us our sprite group. And then one more thing here, within the run game, so not only are we going to need to check events, we're going to need to update our ship, we're also going to need to update bullets. Okay. Now that we have all of that, we're going to need to be able to fire our bullets. And notice that the updates here did not actually turn colors. That's because up here, we created the bullets attribute of the AI game, and we created that to be a group. So that was all creation. Now we're trying to say that this bullets has this method called update, but we haven't imported anything yet. So we're going to go ahead and come back up here, and we're going to enter, and we're going to say from bullet, we're going to import bullet with a capital B. There we go, no S. Okay, there we go. So now, when we come down here, update's not quite there yet. Let's save it. All right, well, let's see. Let's do a few more things here that might help get us to do that. So in our class Alien Invasion, again, we said we were going to check whether or not we have some events. So let's check some key down events, because remember, to fire a bullet, we're going to need to press a key. So let's do key down event. After our system.exit, we can just throw a new elif in here. Event.key is the pygame.k space. So if it's the space button, then we're going to do self._fire bullet. And again, we haven't defined what this is yet, so it's not going to quite recognize what we're talking about. But this is going to be another helper method. You know it's a helper method because it starts with an underscore. So let's come down here in between key up and defining the update screen. Let us write a definition for fire bullet. And we'll throw the self in there as a parameter. So to fire the bullet, first thing we need to do is create a new bullet and add it to the group. And that was why we couldn't, it wasn't allowing us to update. It didn't seem to recognize this update for bullets. And that's because bullets is a Pygroup sprite group, Pygame sprite group. And that group doesn't have an update method. So we need to kind of make a connection between that group containing some bullets and its ability to then update. So we're going to create a new bullet. We're going to add it to the bullets group. And we're going to do that by calling new bullet. And this new bullet is going to equal a bullet. And again, we have to send it a bullet. Init has to have an AI game. So we're going to send it the AI game that we're currently in. This self refers to the new game we're in right now. So now we'll say self.bullet .add, and then we're going to send that new bullet into this group of bullets. So now that we've added a bullet to our group, we can come down here and update our screen. So after we litany for the ship, we are going to do for each bullet, so for bullet in self.bullet .sprite we are going to do bullet.draw bullet. And there we go. Now we are drawing the bullet, and we should be able to save this. And let's go ahead and give this a run. All right, and so we're just going to go up here and run this. And let's watch it pop up. And again, our ship is moving. And I'm going to hit the fire. So that's the space button. And again, currently, I have to hit the space button every time. But what you're going to notice, I'm putting up a whole lot of bullets here. And those bullets are just going to be continuing up the screen forever and ever and ever. So they still exist. All those bullets I've created are still running through. So you can imagine if I keep firing these bullets, I'm creating all these bullets and they're all continuing to exist, what's going to happen? It's going to start lagging. So we're going to take care of all that in our next video when we update and set a few settings for the bullet. All right, I'll see you then.